I have the pleasure of moderating this session where we will explore the age of innovation, increasing return on investment. Innovation is defined as the action or the process of innovating. But what does this really mean? Perhaps, Adrian, it's going, sorry.
It's that one, right? Will he switch it on, or do I need to switch it from here? Okay.
He's muted.
Thank you. What does innovation really mean? Perhaps it means change, transformation, breakthrough, or a new idea, way of doing business, or a new product. In a highly competitive environment where our goal is to attract visitors from around the world to our respective Caribbean destinations, we are also expected to consistently deliver return on investment to our countries and major shareholders. Therefore, if we approach business every day in the same manner, we will continue to get the same result. We have to make ourselves uncomfortable, and we have to find new ways of doing business. Ultimately, for the benefit of our people and our destinations, for the benefit of our shareholders, and to ultimately raise the level of awareness for the Caribbean. Today, our panelists will present their experiences. We'll first learn from Mrs. Carolyn Trebescoy, followed by Mr. Maurice Jenkins. I'll provide a short brief on both panelists. Carolyn is the Executive Director of Marketing and Operations for Anne's Chastenay and Jade Mountain Resorts in St. Lucia. Since 1984, Carolyn has led the marketing and day-to-day operations for these award-winning resorts. Caroline is the president of the St. Lucia Tourism and Hotel Association and has been instrumental in the successful launch of the St. Lucia Enhancement Fund. Caroline provides strategic guidance on a number of St. Lucia tourism and marketing boards. She is the president-elect of the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association. I would also like to congratulate Carolyn for raising $50,000 for the Dominica Hotel Association. This initiative, recent initiative, was called Caribbean Hotels Unite for Dominica. Please join me in welcoming Carolyn to the podium. It is a privilege to introduce our second panelist, Mr. Maurice Jenkins. He is the Director of Information Systems and Telecommunications for Miami-Dade Aviation Department. Maurice has served in this capacity for 15 years and is responsible for defining and managing capital planning, investment management processes to ensure successful implementation and integration with department budget, acquisition, and planning methods. Mr. Jenkins' strategic vision has led to the successful integration of new technology at the new South and North terminals at Miami International Airport. Mr. Jenkins has also implemented an area-wide marketing information service to both hotels and convention centers using current flight information data from Miami International Airport. He's committed to providing the highest level of service governed by industry standards. Please give Maurice a warm welcome. Caroline, I'll hand over to you for the first presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Whilst they're loading my presentation, can I ask who has been to St. Lucia? Quite a number of you, great. Well, if any of you find yourself back in St. Lucia, please be sure to look me up and be happy to show you our properties personally, invite you for a drink or even lunch. So get my card when we are done here. So as you have heard, I'm Carolyn Trebescoy. We own two beautiful properties in St. Lucia, Anne's Chastenay and Jade Mountain. We are located in the southwestern part of St. Lucia, which is the most scenic part of the island. We have heard a lot about the need for authentic product development here, also the need to operate sustainably. And I was invited by you, Riley and CTO, to showcase how this translates into guest experience at our two resorts. It all started in 1974 when my husband bought a small property known as Anse Chastenay with only 12 rooms and a very small acreage. It has in the meantime turned into a 600-acre property with 2 beaches, including a helipad. And from having originally had 9 employees in 1974, we now have over 500 employees for 2 properties that together only have 78 rooms. 500 employees, 78 rooms. In '74, we started, like many resorts at that time, as a classic Caribbean hideaway experience. As we added more rooms, what these rooms have all in common, they have been built in harmony with nature. They are not air conditioned, and they have, and still don't have, any telephone, radio, television. What was very important to us from the very beginning was to keep up a very traditional feel, so we engaged with local artists as early as the 80s to have them present and build artworks for us for the rooms. Plus, we have been inviting artists from all over the world to come and paint for us, and then opened an art gallery in the early 80s to showcase both local and international artists that were inspired by the location. Then, of course, like many of us, we then ventured into exploring the honeymoon and wedding market to increase occupancy further. And then we also added an adventure element. Now, I just say here scuba diving. It wasn't just that we would open a scuba operation. It was in the early 80s, we first had to find the reefs, name the reefs, understand scuba diving, and then go out and promote scuba diving. As the tourist board would agree, perhaps before the tourist board then took over at some later stage, and it became a mainstream attraction for the island as a whole. We also then saw an opportunity to add over 12 miles of mountain biking trails. We call them jungle biking. And again, that's brought a very interesting adventure-based market segment to our property. We then discovered the health and wellness. We saw spas opening all over the Caribbean, so we started a small spa. We started bringing in yoga. We offer complimentary yoga. And again, we used our own estate to build up escorted walks, hiking path. This is still ongoing. We just opened up another 3 miles of hiking path. My husband calls the trail the Tarantula Trail. We are still arguing whether that is a good name or whether we should perhaps reconsider the name. In the last 4 years, we also realized that we had excellent bird watching on our estate on St. Lucia. This is again a market element that we haven't really fully explored as a destination. Because we didn't have a lot of information to retrieve on a destination level, we brought in our own experts and our own photographers, and they were simply astonished what we had available, and which we now have very successfully turned into a business by attracting bird watching groups, especially from the United Kingdom. We have been very much engaged with our community since 1974. Nobody had to actually tell us that we should keep the economic benefit in the region. We thought that's what we should do and were meant to do. So we have been buying local since 1974, and I'm talking not just about straw mats, I'm talking about locally made chairs, seamstresses making even bathrobes locally. So whatever we can build locally or have locally made, we have upkept that since 1974. Having said it, sadly, the crafts are dying out. We have more trouble than ever now to find locally made chairs, and there's definitely a need to revive our crafts so that they can also benefit from what we actually would like to keep purchasing locally. We were a founding member of the Soufra Foundation, again in the 80s, that was created as really a platform for community participation in tourism. And we were also instrumental in developing the Soufra Marine Management Area to protect our marine coast. That was also in the 80s, so again, we were a bit ahead of our time in developing this. I believe St. Lucia was one of the first islands that had a marine management authority in place, where all stakeholders had to work together. So just giving you a little overview, we started with a few rooms in '74. We ended up with 49 rooms at Anse Chastenay. We have been able from '74 to 2015 to maintain a year-round average occupancy of 80%. And we have grown at Anse Chastenay alone from 9 team members to 350 team members. And with the opening of Jade Mountain in 2007, we added another 150. There's actually more than that, but I think you will think we're crazy if I actually give you the right number. So we went from an authentic Caribbean hideaway experience to the world's most exciting new resort called Jade Mountain, which opened in 2007. Who has heard of Jade Mountain? Okay, quite a few. Well, it wasn't as exciting as you may think when it started. I was excited, but not in a very positive way, because my husband, who is the architect that designed Jade Mountain and also built it, had sort of his singular vision what Jade Mountain should look like, and it was really hard for anybody, for especially the rest of us, to comprehend what it is we were doing. However, when the property finally opened in 2007 and we could see the design in its magnificence, we fully understood what we were suddenly handed. And it is certainly more sculpture than hotel structure in the traditional sense. There's individual bridges that lead to the entrance doors of our sanctuaries. We don't call our rooms suites or anything like that. We call them sanctuaries because once you're in there, you really do not want to come out. There's only 29 sanctuaries, 24 of which have private infinity pools. These are not plunge pools. These are full-size pools that are suspended in the air, and that's part of the experience. As you can't really see it here, but all of these rooms have an entirely open wall. So again, you have no air condition, and it is an unplugged experience, and you're one-on-one with nature, day in and day out. This is not a picture I show very often because it's probably a bit scary, but you can see here how really, what an amazing structure Jade Mountain is, where you have full-size pools that are up to 900 square feet in size, suspended in different levels, and it is truly a property you need to see in person to fully understand it. My husband was very proud to build this stunning property with local labor, with only about 3 supervisors, because he was always convinced that the local laborers had it in them to build such a stunning property, and he proved everyone right. There is so much more to say. I mean, all these sanctuaries have amazing features. The pool tile colors are different from sanctuary to sanctuary. They're made from recycled glass. Even the bathrooms have a few. I'm just engaged with a mail online who is doing a story on the best toilets with a few. Needless to say, we will be featured. Frank knows I didn't make that up because I got him to giggle about that one yesterday. So at night, because yes, big toilet in gold. Yeah. So at night, the pools have fiber optic cables, and so the guests have a choice of color scheme for their pool. So at night, the building looks like a little spaceship ready to shoot off into the sky. It's an adults-only property. At Chastanet, we take children from age 10. At Jade Mountain, it's adults only. It's sometimes referred to as the Caribbean's sexiest adult playground. We cater to both heterosexual and same-sex couples. And I think the resort record for someone not coming out from their room was 5 nights and 5 days. Come to think of it, there was the widow of a famous actor who actually checked herself in after the death of her husband for 3 weeks and didn't come out, but I didn't think that was a market niche that was worth further exploring. So we don't mention it. So come to the public facilities. There is the beautiful Celestial Terrace with an ornamental pool where we feature all the different pool tile colors on top of Jade Mountain. Celestial Terrace were very well known in the States, particularly for having actually been the final Red Rose proposal in the bachelor program on 2 occasions. You can't take a bad view. The entire building is a celebration of the amazing Piton Mountains, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. My husband likes to explain what he was trying to do is really to uplift your spirits when you are at Jade Mountain, and that you feel like you're sitting on a magic carpet surrounded by this amazing beauty. You can't just have a great architectural experience and not have great food and great service attached to it. So needless to say, we work very hard to polish up our culinary experiences. There's great food to be had. We also went from the traditional large restaurant that you had in the 80s, 90s in each hotel to creating more intimate spaces. On Chastanet, we have an East Indian Solution Fusion restaurant. I insisted to have a completely vegetarian restaurant, which we've had for over 15 years, because I feel that's the most misunderstood market segment. So we have a great vegan and vegetarian restaurant. We are one of only 8 AAA 5 diamond rated properties in the Caribbean for service. And I'd like to mention we're completely independent. It is often perceived that you need to join a brand to be able to deliver good service. I don't believe in that. I think we all have it in us to provide an amazing product. So what else do we do? When we built Shade Mountain, we needed to have a lot of plants. So we had a farm nearby of a few acres where we first started growing plants for the property. And then as of 2007, when Shade Mountain was finished, we turned it into our organic farm. An organic farm that grows produce for our kitchens. Our guests can visit the farm, and they can also have cooking classes there. Not only that, in about 4 or 5 years ago, we realized we had over 1,500 cocoa trees, which inspired us to make our own chocolate. And again, the guests can partake in this experience. Plus, last year we built a chocolate laboratory, so guests can in fact make fine chocolate with us, learn, also have chocolate sensory tasting experiences. We have, by default, almost become the island's only tree-to-bar chocolate maker, which has been so successful that we've been encouraged to sell the chocolate elsewhere, even overseas, but we're not quite ready yet because we are, in fact, hoteliers and not chocolatiers, but we're trying to learn fast. So at the back of house, also some interesting development. We were able to, so I mentioned we have a 600-acre estate. Part of that estate is there are historical remains from the 18th century, and we were able to resurrect an old ancient reservoir that can hold up to 2.7 million gallon water and make use of it in our water treatment facility, again with the view that we did not want to burden the community around us with our water usage. Plus, we created these reed beds and are able, with our wastewater treatment, to ensure that there is zero discharge of any wastewater into our marine environment. We've also integrated solar panels in the water treatment, and here you just have a little bit of the back of house with these treatment plants. In marketing and PR, we clearly follow the 5 C's of luxury travel: culture, cuisine, community, content, and customization. I stole that from skift.com, so you can look it up there because I won't have time to elaborate. But clearly, as you can see, we are very fortunate in having a very visually beautiful property, and we have really worked hard to enrich our storytelling by coming up with all of these different activities that our guests can partake in. And so we have really been able to tell our story successfully, tell it traditionally, of course, through the press, through advertising, but as, of course, in recent years, also on the social media. We have events, we have Cooking in Paradise, we started a Discover Chocolate Festival, which then inspired the St. Lucia Tourist Board to declare one of our months the Month of Chocolate. We started a Mango Madness Festival, and we have a photography workshop. And then again, we are very lucky that we are able to showcase what we offer with great visuals, and social media have worked very well for us. We are extremely active on every platform you can think of in telling our story. We have been able to bring to St. Lucia a lot of publicity that was generated by Shade Mountain. It was in fact called the most exciting new hotel in the world. Many covers all the way to Japan. We had a Japanese guest staying with us that actually said, "Oh, I read about Shade Mountain. I wanted to visit, and my next trip will be to the moon," because he was had a deposit down on Virgin Galactic. So I said, "Oh, that's great. We're in the same good company here, Shade Mountain and the moon." So again, a lot of different, covers. I can't give you the details, but you can see it. And that didn't go entirely unnoticed. And last year, my husband was presented by the government of St. Lucia with the St. Lucia Medal of Honor in Gold for his outstanding contribution to the development of the tourism industry. So what have we given St. Lucia? We've given them 2 properties that are operating on extremely high occupancy levels year-round, not just in the winter season. 80% at Anchastenay from 1974 to 2015, and since 2007, Shade Mountain has been consistently fully committed year-round. We have been able to provide employment for over 500 staff with only 78 rooms. We have been able to upkeep an ADR, an average, $1, an average daily rate of 400 US for Anshastane, but at Shade Mountain, the average daily rate averages 1,200 US dollars. Not only are we getting our business from the originating markets that we're all familiar with, USA, Canada, UK, we have also been able to with the publicity we had, the visibility Shade Mountain had internationally, we now see guests from the Middle East, from Hong Kong, from India, that are big spenders. I mean, Kuwaitis and Indian honeymoons are very long. They usually travel the whole world, and so they have made a point of including St. Lucia and Shade Mountain in that experience. We have won numerous awards. We have now just been named again the #1 Caribbean travel resort on Condé Nast Traveler for the third time in a row. We have won the #1 Caribbean Resort Award with Travel and Leisure for we won it 4 times, but what I want to bring to your attention now is that whilst we were able to upkeep the #1 position in the Caribbean, we started out in 2010 to be the #3 property of the top 100 hotels in the world. That was the... Thank you. And as Nancy Novograd said in 2009, it was really the first time a Caribbean hotel managed to outshine all of the Asian hotels and make it to the top 3. But now look what happened. So in 2013, we slipped to number 14, then to number 31, and to my great shock, I saw in August that we are now on number 90 among the top 100. So what does this tell you is that internationally, I mean, that's what everybody does. They're curating these guest experiences. Nobody stands still, and everybody wants to outshine the other properties. So I figured we have work to do, and I'm certainly not lying back thinking that we are complacent. We need to reinvent our product all the time. So you might think, oh, this is great, they're rolling in dough, they're making so much money with this, but let me assure you, we're just as broke as everybody else in the Caribbean, or at least some of us. You know, it is really the curse for all of us. We are cash strapped after we've paid our high cost of operation, after we've paid our taxes. I'm looking at you, Minister. And you know, our labor bill, there is very little left to reinvest and re-enhance. And it's very sad that we really have this issue right now in the Caribbean, that there are also very few bankers available that would make capital available so that you really can take that product to the next level. We have endless challenges. Whether it is, you know, the high cost of energy, wastewater management, water management, you know where I'm coming from. In general, we often hear overseas that the Caribbean is not perceived to be a luxury destination, that the Caribbean service is not luxury when you go out of the hotel. I know we can do it. I call the greatest Caribbean treasure the Caribbean people. I think there's tremendous potential to polish up and change that perception. We're skipping over the Caribbean curse, which is the crime and climate change. We know about this. Other challenges and opportunities, I mean, again, we have the airlift issue. What is expected of us is also to have a better quality of airlift. And again, product development is key to all of us, not just, I mean, even for us, who you may think have created this amazing resort, you have to reinvent yourself continuously. Sitting here in the panel yesterday, listening to Caroline Correa, the lady that did the creative. I mean, I came away with a lot of new ideas what I can do to further enrich the experience. And, you know, again, I'm sure that you think, especially panels like this, like there is this tendency we think, oh my God, everybody's just wanting to tell us how to do it. I think collectively we all know what needs to be done. We hold a lot of intelligence, knowledge, and experience. I think somebody just has to give us the funds to make it all happen. So that's my ending statement, and I would like to also say to CTO and CHD, I do believe in our regional marketing campaign, and I would like the Caribbean Tourism Development Company to play the role it was created for in marketing our region successfully internationally. The future, well, just briefly, we are not done. This is the next version, Shade Sea. More interesting sanctuaries, this time with a completely enclosed bedroom and an amazing digital component to it. Thank you.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much. 2, our ranking amongst U.S. airports for international passengers. We are truly the gateway to Latin America and the Caribbean into our basin, which means we are the funnel point. We need to make sure that we give you an effective process, an effective movement to be able to get those passengers into MIA. and be able to allow them to transfer out to get to your respective countries to have that passenger experience. Oh. Doesn't work. 5.8, Miami's annual passenger growth rate through second quarter of 2015. We talked a lot of what I've seen a lot doing, and we talked about, I think yesterday, back in 2008, there's an economic downturn, and people saw this decline in transportation. We saw this decline in our business. Miami was one of the very few airports within the region that had a continual growth, and we were growing somewhere within the 3 percentile, 3%, 3.6. Which one?
Next page.
Okay, got you. Okay, beautiful. Thank you. 21.9. Our annual passenger total in millions through second quarter of 2015. Our projections right now are to exceed where we were this time last year, and we've exceeded that. So last year we were roughly about 40 million passengers. We're looking at about 44 million passengers coming to Miami this year. Of those 44 million passengers, a good portion of those are transfer passengers, which means they're coming to this region. 33.5, it's Miami's economic impact in the billions of dollars to our local community. 37.5, the number of direct jobs that Miami has in thousands. Rule of thumb has been for our airport, 1 in every 4 or 1 in every 10 jobs is derived from that airport. So Miami is one of the strongest economic engines within the region, which means we're taking imports coming in out of Latin America and the Caribbean, such as Venezuela. We're bringing in flowers. Anything that's brought in from this region is then subsequently then transported out. So within that, we drive that portion of the economy. 40% of, the percentage of Florida's total international trade that goes through Miami. As small as Miami is, and it's a large economic engine, a large driver in regards to the global space that we play in. 70, the percent of international visitors to Florida who travel through MIA. As an origin and destination airport, we have a large portion of more international passengers than we do have domestic passengers, and those numbers are growing. 96, the percentage of Miami visitors who arrive by air. Still today, the largest transport mechanism in regards to moving passengers and cargo safely and efficiently has been by air and continues, with the exception, I think, when the young lady from St. Vincent said it was mostly within the yachting arena. There, you do have the one-offs, but a majority of the transport or that transport movement is coming from the air transport mechanism. 101, the number of air carriers serving MIA, more than any other U.S. airport, and we've grown that market tremendously. 282, the number of direct and indirect jobs supported by Miami in the thousands. So we ask ourselves, how do we do this? If I were to say right now, I would have a gift for the first person that ran up here, what would you do? If I said I had a bottle of wine for the first person that ran up here, what would you do? No one's running, but I see someone walking pretty briskly, and I think you won. How do we do this? It's creativity, it's ingenuity, and it's innovation. And we're talking about innovation. If I said I had another bottle of wine, who would get up here? No one would move. Everybody would move. I did this in Germany, believe it or not, and a friend of mine had 2 Apple Watches, and he offered it. Room of about 50 people. Only one individual came up, and when he actually gave them the Apple Watch, he said it again, the whole room stood up and ran. So it's innovation, it's creativity. You have a market that says, I need to be able to do something with this. How well do I attract the masses? Because we cannot continue to function in the same vein, in the same venue that we're functioning in today. You can't be effective without being a change agent. So by doing that level of creativity, that level of innovation has allowed us to grow from being a regional network to a global network. What does that do for you? Okay, we now currently service 153 passenger destinations, 99 freight destinations. But here's the kicker that you're looking at. 32 Caribbean destinations are direct routes coming from Miami, coming into this region. And we want to grow that market, we want to grow that region, and that's why we have this partnership. and how well did we go about making that happen. So for us, we've also, by doing some of the new creative, innovative ideas that we've come up with, we've added new air service. So just based upon the screen, and I'll run through real quickly for you, is we've increased Monterrey, Mexico, via Air Mexico, Thomas Cook Airlines coming out of Manchester. We looked at Austrian Airlines, just started up, going nonstop to Vienna. We also have Turkish Airlines, nonstop to Istanbul. Now, I did an interview with a reporter, Josephina, I forgot her last name, and one of the questions she asked me was, what is it that's going on within the Asian market, and do you think that can drive tourism here in Curacao? And what about the Turkish market? But I was reading an article the other day, and guess what? And guys, believe it or not, if you're not looking at what we need to examine today, there's a problem. The Asian Pacific Rim Chinese market is expected to spend $229 billion this year. Where are we positioned in the market today to capture part of that market? If not, you're letting it go. And the same thing with India. India is also an emerging market. What are we doing to capture that market? So if you look at the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, as well as South Africa, you can't leave that market out, even based upon the distance. But with long-haul aircraft, and a lot of things that Lionel discussed and presented earlier is from this global market. This truly is a global market. The Caribbean is not segmented by itself anymore. So within that, we've added technology. And I'd like you to make a note of a couple of these things of what we're doing within our airport, and we can talk about them. But I want to get into the crux of the matter a little bit. I'm going to engage you some, so please, I'm asking for your indulgence. For the mere simple fact, how many of you in here have a BlackBerry? How many of you had a BlackBerry? What would you do if you didn't have your BlackBerry anymore? We have to change. So I'd like to talk about APC kiosks and passenger flow monitoring and movement throughout my airport. And I want to continue that a little bit after this, but I want 2 more exercises because I know you guys are getting a little hungry. However, another point I would like to prove. Can you all stand for me, please? As soon as you answer no to the questions, you can go ahead and have a seat. How many of you did not send a text message or do an email via your mobile device this morning? If you did not, please have a seat. Okay. How many of you, as you were coming to this session today, either text or did an email as you were walking to get here or walking into the session? If you did not, have a seat. All right. For those of you, this next question may get you in trouble, so be mindful if we're not videotaping it. How many of you, when you woke up this morning or any time last week, when you woke up, the first thing you did was look at your phone rather than kiss your spouse? I'm not married, so I don't have that problem. However, bear that in mind. Now, please stay standing for one more. The gentleman who lost his HTC phone, and this is applicable as I ask the next question, how many of you would rather lose your wallet than lose your mobile device? If you'd rather lose your wallet, have a seat. Yvan? The age of innovation says, guess what? Your life is in the palm of your hands. You can go ahead and have a seat. Your life is in the palm of your hands. Technology is in the palm of your hands. The individuals you engage with are in the palm of your hands. So therefore, guess what? You need to bring the technology to where it matters the most. We're mobile. We're agile. We're actively moving. How do we make that happen? So as the IT director for my airport, and Melissa's going to make me change my tagline from being just the IT guy to something else after this, but we're chartered in doing one thing primarily, which is what? Bringing you an experience. That's your goal. But how do we do that? For me, one of the initiatives I'm looking at from a technology perspective at my airport is leveraging what I call proximity, which are beacons within my airport. Reason being what our industry, especially within transportation and airports, you said 1.3 billion people come to the Caribbean each year? Or that market is 1.3? I got that number, unless I took my notes incorrectly, and I apologize. But an airport itself, we're responsible for moving almost 7 billion people. That is the largest audience you can ever have. From any cricket stadium, any Chelsea versus Arsenal, I'm an Arsenal fan, any Arsenal game that you could ever go to, any particular venue, the aviation industry in the global market is what we have, a captured audience that we need to be able to cater and deliver to, but they want that experience. They want that seamless end-to-end service delivery from point to finish. So how do we make that happen? And at the same time, looking at your ROI from the technology standpoint. So within that, we go within the mobile space. For us, we've developed and we're working on a mobile application that allows you to be able to have that experience in the palm of your hand, to be able to be independent without liking to rely upon resources to get there. You have the option, yes. However, a lot of us like to choose to be our own bosses, so to speak, in how we do certain things. So one of the things we're doing with proximity and the whole digital aspect is personalization. We talked about personalization a lot over the last day and a half from what I've heard it, but how do you cater to that? How do you deliver that? So within our space, when we're looking at within the mobile app space, is the application itself is not just a mobile app. The mobile app is going to be catered to you. How do you feel? How do you function? A lot of us, when you realize when you go into your office and you're leaving to go home and all of a sudden you have an Android phone on Apple and it pops up and it says 25 minutes to home at 6:10, guess what? Analytics says at 6 o'clock, 6:10 every day, I go home. So here's the shortest distance to get from point A to point B. So what do I want to do? I want to take that same process, put it in an application that says, now this is my personal experience. This is how I want to get through the airport. I want step-by-step instructions. I want that level of guidance. I want to be able to find restaurants. I want promotions. I want deals. I want to find the bathroom. A lot of the times we want to be able to do certain things within this space. And I look at it within the transportation arena and the tourism arena. While I was at my hotel and I checked in, my room wasn't ready yet, so I went and I sat down. I'm doing emails. What if now I took the same level of technology at the hotel and I'm sitting there waiting for my room and a pop-up came, Mr. Jenkins, your room is still not ready. Take this ad on your mobile phone and go get a free drink at the bar. That's customer service. That's engagement. You can clap, don't worry about it. You know, I get a little shy and bashful, so work with me here. All right, so we talk about beacons and its technology, so if there are any IT folks in the room, you want to discuss this, by all means, let's do it. But it's all about the customer service piece. It's all about the technology and what we need to bring to the market. So within that, we create applications, we do application engagement. And within that application engagement, it allows you to have that personalized experience, so it's not about you. But one of the things I want to talk about is reference ROI. So let's say if I deploy beacons in my airport, which I will. But now my rule of thumb has always been, if I'm going to deploy technology, it should satisfy a multitude of functions. So, okay, cool. I've deployed the beacons themselves. So then guess what? Within one implementation of one technology, I can satisfy 3 functions. First one is customer service. You love my app. You can get step-by-step instructions to get through the airport, find the bathrooms, how long are my wait times in customs, the whole nine. You have that. That's your personal experience. What else can I do? I can monetize it. Oh, I can make money from this. I'm a capitalist by trade. I can't help it. But here you go. So as you're walking past a store, be it in a hotel, be it downtown, or be it in my airport, coupons can pop up within the mobile app and says, bring this and get 20% off. Or there's 2 for 1. There's some things, same application, nothing has changed. Same product. But the third item is, guess what? I could also manage my internal resources just as well. Carolyn talked about being sustainable. This is sustainable to the point of looking at energy and wastewater management. My electric bill in my airport is $29 million a year. But the beacons themselves also have temperature monitoring within them, and I can look at within the dashboard. So I can see where the hot and cold points in my airport. If I can actually do that and monitor and regulate that, I can reduce my carbon footprint by what, 5, 10, 15%? And the private sector, that'll give me a raise. Government, that's part of my job. But guess what? One technology satisfies 3 things. Ideal. So we talked about certain things, and we said the beacon technology, will it be around? Is it a panacea? Because we talked, back in the days, RFID was supposed to be the latest thing. It kind of mellowed out. We talked about NFC, and NFC was supposed to be the greatest thing, and it mellowed out. But then Apple came in, and most of your Apple phones, those of you who are Apple users, included NFC. It climbed a little bit, but it also tapered off. Nothing else has happened. The industry implemented Eddystone, and Eddystone came across and says, guess what? I can support multiple platforms now, which tells me that this piece of technology is going to be around for a while. So what are we going to do with it? Several other things if you look to opt to engage in its level of development and you go forth in doing these things, don't forget about the payment piece in the back end. Now, people say, well, Apple Pay is the only thing out there. Bear in mind, you can pay with Apple Pay, but don't forget now you have Google Pay. You also have Currency. But at the same token, the gentleman posed the question yesterday, what about maybe a common organizational unit, almost a common payment? If you implemented Apple Pay and Google Pay and Currency, then guess what? It doesn't matter what part of the region you're in or what country, and you're still using your mobile device as a payment engine to go ahead and buy product. You don't have to change your currency. Just use a common system. Hopefully, I've done my job in creating dialogue, sorry about that, and discussion. And with that, I thank you.
Now, I'm going to start with my first question. And we all travel through Miami Airport. We love and we loathe at times. So I'm going to be very honest.
Sounds like a bad marriage.
But for you and the operations at the Miami Airport, you obviously have a big team behind the operations. How do you create buy-in from your team to break through perhaps innovation being looked at as disruptive to regular course of business?
Well, several things you need to realize is that change is good. Change is necessary. In order to sustain your livelihoods and moving forward, you need change. And by not doing that, you run the risk. I'm in a competitive market, and I think we all are in a competitive market, but for me, as being in Miami, I compete with Orlando, I compete with Houston, I compete with other airports within my geographic region for business that subsequently gets to here. So within that, we look at where are we now, where do we need to be, and what are our long-term forecasts? Because our goals are one, we want to grow, we want to increase customer service, and we want to give you that look and that feel of wanting to come through Miami, we want to give you that passenger experience, and how do we go about making that happen for you? So we've increased our customer service training, we've increased technology within the airport, and just looking at how do we address passenger processing. And I think within that, we've done a good job in doing so. And I want to share some statistics with you real quick, because a young lady was asking a question about international passengers coming to the airport and moving through and not being in long customs lines. And we talk about that. Since I've put in the automated passport control kiosks that are in the airport today, my stats from yesterday, to give you an idea, I had roughly about almost 8,000 people come through one of our FIS facilities yesterday. The average time it took to process those individuals using that kiosk was 108 seconds. The shortest was 28 seconds. The average time to do a facial match to go ahead and attach that to a receipt was 15 seconds. So on the average, looking at those individuals, I don't like it. And I just came off of a 16-hour flight coming back from India a couple of days ago before I came here. The last thing I want is a 2-hour wait. Last thing I want is a 1-hour wait. So we've looked at what is it to ensure that we have passenger satisfaction. Rule of thumb has always been, no matter what, if a transfer passenger coming into Miami, let's say coming to Curacao or going to Jamaica, if you come into Miami and let's say a 10-hour flight from London, you go through customs for 2 hours and then get to Jamaica, and all of a sudden it takes you 30 minutes. You had a bad experience somewhere along that chain, and now I have a passenger that's not happy. You have a customer that's not happy. A happy customer is a customer that's going to spend money. So our goal and the intent is to give you that passenger experience, that customer experience, as best as we possibly can, and that's essential. You need customer service, you need the resources, you need the staff, you need to train, but you have to have the commitment.
Thank you, Maurice. My next question, before we open it up to the audience, would be, Carolyn, recently I read a quote and it said, "Passion is the reason you journey. Purpose is the reason you journey. Passion is the fire that lights your way." So, how much passion do you need to drive innovative outcomes?
You know, I think that is, can you hear me? Yeah. I think passion is very important, and I think what my big fear is that in our product development, it is too focused on how many keys, you know, rentability per square foot, and where's the passion in it? And you need to have people that really have a passion for the environment, for what they're developing, and keeping it also in line with what the destination presents. And I think that is sometimes missing. And what we have certainly an abundance of is passion, and we want to continue developing something that is really meaningful to the island of St. Lucia. And I would hope that any investor, any developer that comes to the Caribbean will not just bring, what was the other one? The passion, the purpose. You need that passion, because nobody should just clunk down a couple hundred rooms and not be concerned about the environment they're in. There should be a little bit of passion of doing something for that destination and bringing something novel to the marketplace.
Hopefully this one is on. Thank you. It's obvious that with innovation, we have to be well-researched. We have to be open to change and take risks. That's what has been displayed in these two presentations. So now we have an opportunity to take questions from the floor. Anybody?
One over there. All right, we do the one up and go.
Good afternoon. I have a question for Mr. Jenkins. We have an issue here in Curacao and in Aruba regarding the situation in Venezuela. We get people from Venezuela that basically flee the country. This does create a security and immigration issue. How does Miami deal with situations like that, especially when it's happening in a short, unforeseeable time period? And I also have a request. Can you put in free Wi-Fi at Miami Airport instead of just only the first 20 minutes?
All right, I'll take the second one first. I kind of like that one, which is cool. I am charged and chartered with doing a multitude of things, and bear in mind as we look at this. Innovation is good, but innovation also costs money. Okay, so bear in mind, how many people like to make money in this room? It may sound like a rhetorical question, but I have to ask the question. Now, I net, after expenses, $1.3 million a year selling Wi-Fi in my airport. How many of you would give it away for free and just walk away from $1.3 million? Raise your hand. You asked for it. I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you would go ahead and say, I'll give up $1.3 million so I can give it away for free? Okay. I have two people in the room. Now, bear in mind several things. I have to now caution that and find a happy balance. I'm in the process right now of rewriting a tender for Wi-Fi, and by which you will have complimentary. I hate the word free because free is not always free. It's cost me almost $7 million already. I'm spending another $3 million in upgrades in regards to provide complimentary Wi-Fi, in which, like Charles de Gaulle and other airports in the UK, you will log in and you'll get complimentary service, and after 30 minutes, log back in. And if you want uninterrupted service, you'll go ahead and pay for it. So you'll have that. As a pretty much now, you have it now. If you just watch a 30-second ad, you can have 24-hour service to go along with that. But bear in mind, those of you that charge or do a different process and you're going to offer it for free eventually, rule of thumb, and based upon my passenger traffic, once you start going from a fee process to a free process, your numbers traditionally go up exponentially 3 to 4-fold. I average 20,000 people a day, or 20,000 sessions a day. Once I go free, that 20,000 now goes from 20,000 to 60 to 80,000 a day, which means, do I have enough bandwidth to support it? And now we're in the business of customer service. So if I gave it away for free and the quality of service wasn't great, what happens now? So you caution the fact of giving it away, and at what risk are you willing to take to the point of service degradation? So you caution yourself by doing so. Is it ideal for the environment? In some industries, yes. In some industries, no. Now, here's the thing. It's free. It'll be free in my airport, so why would you pay for it if you're in the aircraft? So let's talk about that as well. So there's a trickle-down effect. You pay for it in a hotel. So my airport needs to be free. In some hotels, based upon the service, some hotels I've been to, some charge, some don't. Okay, so let's and then I'll rephrase that last statement. In some hotels, there's a fee. In some hotels, they're not. Some of it is actually tied into your room rate. Whatever the situation is, but downstream along the line, there's not a equal shared process across the table. So that's one. So you will have it to answer your question, but caution that it does come at a cost, and what's the level of experience you're expecting based upon the fact that you're getting it for free. If you're paying for it, you know what you expect. When it comes free, you need to make sure you define your level of expectation. In regards to your Venezuela question, I'm not sure I truly understand what your question is, but for us, as long as you're coming through the airport in regards to processing, and we do our APC kiosks, and we take ESTA, B1, B2 visas, our goal and the intent is to get you into the airport, get you screened, utilizing those systems. And we also have a mobile app right now as well. So as you're in this airport using free Wi-Fi, you can log in, download the app, do your customs declaration, get a result set, and by the time you land, you'll have that, and you just use that to clear customs. So whatever it is that we can do to simplify the passenger process is what we're shooting towards to ensure that we have a content, happy customer.
Do we have another question from the floor?
Cool.
So I always like to do a countdown. Going once, twice. I'd like to thank Carolyn and Maurice today for your discussion and presentation. Did I miss somebody?
You didn't say 3?
I just like to move into it. 3. But thank you.